will generate jobs, will generate revenue, will generate growth in our local communities right back to them again. So I think we need to be very deliberate on how we target. I think we need to keep in mind that farming, even on a small scale, is pretty expensive on the front end, mainly because of the land rent or the land ownership piece of that. And it's that access to capital, because I think the innovation like you're talking about, they'll figure that piece of it out, but there's gonna have to be some help on the front end. And then again, partnering with the organizations. That's why I was so excited about the beginning farmer and rancher legislation, the farm beginning education piece of this. We funded so that was in organizations. That should be your organization doing that work, and that money should flow through from the state. It doesn't need to be the Department of Agriculture in the state of Minnesota leading those programs. It needs to be them administering the programs so that you can lead the programs, make it happen.
My name is Jessica Webster. I'm a staff attorney with Legal Aid, and I work in close partnership with Hunger Solutions Minnesota and Clay Moriarty. And we've worked for a long time on school lunch issues and lunch shaming. And in the last year, there have been several incidents of lunch shaming, including an incident in Stewartville where hundreds of lunches were dumped in the trash publicly in front of children. And so I'm wondering if you can talk about what steps can we take as a state to make sure that kids aren't stigmatized when they're hungry in school. And second, would you support universal free breakfast to make sure that kids start the day with healthy food?
I'll take the last one first. Yes, of course, and extending it through, that was the easy one. I'm going to take a point of personal privilege to thank Legal Aid. Of all the horrific things I witness in Congress, the thing that happens every year is when my colleagues, and I know you're a C3, but it is specifically folks on the other side of the aisle who vote every year to zero out legal aid. And I want to be very clear about this. If you believe in this democracy and you believe in equality in front of the law and you zero out legal aid, you do not believe in those things. So I'm grateful that you're here. And I want to, again, as a point of personal to some of you who don't know me, I supervised the high school lunchroom for 20 years. That is to show you that I have great resiliency. I'm an eternal optimist. I'm a survivor. No. It's more important to that because the thought of this, and the thing is when I hear these absolutely unacceptable situations, the one thing I can tell you is I have personally witnessed from myself and my colleagues around pulling money out to fill up lunch accounts. The teachers do that on a daily basis. And once again, they shouldn't have to do it, but they will. Absolutely. And this is again the job of governor, and those of you teachers in the room and things, this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Mm-hmm. If my kid comes to school, to my geography classroom and slept in a car the night before, they don't care about geography. If they come to hungry, they don't care about geography. If they come with a toothache, they don't care about geography. We need to start seeing kids holistically, not in pieces, and we need to start understanding that the investments we make on the front end save us money on the back end. I witnessed, and this is stunning on how we have a different view of the world in these campaigns. The situation in overcrowding, and it's not going to come up here today, but it should in other forums of mass incarceration and prison reform and what we need to do. Well, we need more prison guards. Imagine that. We're locking everybody up for different things, but we need more prison guards. And the suggestion that came during this this gubernatorial campaign was we needed to take that money out of the education budget or health and human services. People end up in Stillwater because we're not funding health and human services and education. So on this piece of the social justice piece and the food piece, we've seen this and when it happens, and we need to be much deeper than this. And I appreciate, and the answer is yes on the breakfast, but this runs much deeper than that. We're really talking about instituting that model of full service community schools where the parents are eating too at the schools, where we have the clinics inside the schools, where we have home placements and job opportunities. In Duluth, something that they said was very dramatic, and they started to see scores go up for some of their students. They got a donation that allowed them to buy an industrial washing machine so that they could make sure kids weren't being bullied because they didn't have access to clean their clothes. Those are thinking long-term and holistically, and this food security piece is absolutely critical. And I will go back again, Washington Magnet School in St. Paul, 90% students of color, 90% free and reduced lunch, 90% graduation rates, many of them in the STEM areas. These kids are capable of it when we invest in it, and we're being very deliberate about this. My running mate Peggy Flanagan is a living example of when we invest, we get it all back. Peggy talks about being the kid at school with a different colored lunch ticket. And she oftentimes talks about when people at the Capitol talk about those people. She said, well, guess what? I am those people, and I'm holding the door open for other of those people. Those are our neighbors. These are smart. our commitment to making this happen, again, especially in an area, and this will probably dovetail into some of the issues we're talking about from farm to school. There's absolutely no reason in this nation that any kid goes hungry, that any person goes hungry. We can be deliberate about it. We can create markets that are opened up, and we can make student achievement go up. We can reduce incarceration rates. This is a philosophy, again, we don't just ascribe to it, we think it would be nice. It works. It works when we do things right. And this piece on hunger, I'm certainly applaud all of you. We'll support those things that make that happen.
Thank you. I'm Erin McKee. I'm the Community Food Systems Program Director for the Institute of Agriculture and Trade Policy. And I am excited to talk to you about farm to school and early care initiatives. So we know that they're happening across the state. They're happening in communities in small rural elementary schools. They're happening in tribal Head Start programs, big early care centers, and large urban K-12 school districts as well. And we know that these programs are really good for the kids that participate in them. So they're more willing to try new foods. Studies show that they eat more servings of fruits and vegetables. It actually helps them develop healthy eating habits when they're young, and those habits can carry forward for the rest of their lives and influence, reduce their rates of obesity and diet-related disease. It also increases their understanding of food systems and their connection to their communities and where that food comes from. We also know that these programs are really good for farmers, so I'm really excited to hear about you talking about the investment that goes back into communities, because we know that the latest survey, the USDA Farm to School Census, showed that in Minnesota we were spending over $12 million on local foods, including not just fruits and vegetables, but also meats, dairy, grain products from local farmers and producers. And there have been studies that show that for every dollar that is spent on those farm to school foods, it actually can generate up to an additional $2.16 of local economic activity. There have been a lot of other states that have actually invested additional money from the state level to those schools and early cares who are purchasing from local farmers. I would love to see that happen in Minnesota. It's happened other places. And we also have heard from farmers that we would like more support with positions and extension that could support them in kind of navigating the system of how you sell to institutions. So.
Why share this is where Minnesota should lead. I mean, it makes such good sense. I think this is another case of generationally, our younger parents are expecting this. Our millennial parents are expecting that. I heard somebody tell me they want their food to talk to them. We want to know where it comes from. We want to know who grew it. We want to know where it's at. And I said, I love that idea, because all of the things you talked about, not just the healthy side of it, but the connection to where the food comes from, then the importance of soil preservation, soil health, and then water, and all of the connections that we're trying to get to. The thing about this, again, that just boggles my mind, and it's that 20 years in that lunchroom, that cafeteria, is to watch how it was a model that seemed to serve convenience more so, that we don't even have cooking preparation anymore. We have warmers for the chicken nuggets and the pizzas, and that's what was continuously just cranked out. It was easier, it was cost efficient. Federal government started reducing the money, so the food service people, and this is the one that always would just baffle me and break my heart. I was a strong supporter of First Lady Obama's initiative on healthy student school lunches, mainly because I was doing it simultaneously with healthcare, because I just have to share something that I think all of you know. As childhood obesity rates go up and we remove activities from schools, we now have 2 states in Kentucky and West Virginia that childhood obesity rates are above 40%. So I just want to be clear, we will never pay for healthcare at that rate. Between heart disease and diabetes, it will be endless. So when we initiated that, the smart idea of doing that, but the pushback was this is a nanny state and a government takeover. Now I'm thinking to myself, when I taught 4th grade, I would never allow my 4th graders to cross a busy street against a light or without some supervision. Why would I feed them chicken nuggets every single day? And I said, I just want to be clear, I'm not above eating food that might not be the healthiest. Just look at me, you can see that happens. But it's not that, especially with kids, about not having that environment to learn early about good choices and good selections have lifelong implications for them in all seriousness, and many of them don't have access to that. It's this whole idea of limiting, and I remember what a breakthrough it was, and it was many of you in here advocated for it, when we could use EBD cards at farmers markets, where we could finally get it. Like, wow, what an amazing thing that we're not going to dictate to you and have a bunch of processed things in there and there's a list, and then we're going to put a little different color on it so we shame you when you buy it, rather than going out there and creating. Our agricultural producers know that food programs like SNAP